Donald Trump's received a lavish royal welcome in Saudi Arabia, where he's kicking off his first foreign tour as US president. And he's wasted no time getting down to business, heading straight to a meeting where he signed a number of defense and business deals totaling in excess of $380 billion, including an arms deal worth $110 billion. Trump is the first American president to make Saudi Arabia, or indeed any Muslim-majority country, his inaugural stop overseas, and says he's pleased with the progress so far.
Hundreds of billions of dollars of investments into the United States and jobs, jobs, jobs. So I would like to thank all of the people of Saudi Arabia.
Caleb Maupin has more now on what else the American leader hopes to gain from the visit.
We'll begin with a truly historic gathering in Saudi Arabia with leaders from all across the Muslim world.
What happened? Of all the countries to visit, why is Saudi Arabia Trump's first choice?
We will begin to construct a new foundation of cooperation and support for young Muslims in their countries.
Humanitarian groups supporting Donald Trump on this point and urging him to bring up other issues while he's in Saudi Arabia.
Trump administration has increased its military support for Saudi Arabia.
The United States is nearing a $100 billion deal to sell arms to Saudi Arabia as President Trump prepares to visit Riyadh.
Saudi Arabia was looking to buy arms from the United States. They paid Bill Clinton a fortune to do a speech. Clinton's State Department signed off on arms deals between the United States and Saudi Arabia. Shocking, shocking.
Saudi Arabia is preparing to cement ties with President Trump by making unprecedented investments in the U.S.
Plan to spend as much as $40 billion on U.S. infrastructure.
I feel badly for everybody. What am I going to do? I'm a businessman. That's what I'm supposed to do. That's what I'm supposed to do.
Now, let's face it. Is Donald Trump really going to Saudi Arabia to serve some noble purpose? Donald Trump calls himself a businessman. And what's more important to businessmen than money? Caleb Maupin, RT, New York.
Well, human rights groups are laying into Trump for choosing to head to Riyadh first. Amnesty International says the trip could embolden the Gulf state and encourage further rights violations. It also claims Saudi Arabia uses dubious accusations of terrorism as an excuse to persecute critics. Well, let's get into this visit and the implications of it all more, because I'm joined live by geopolitical analyst Sharmeen Narwani now. Welcome to the programme. So there we have it. Trump has just signed, what, $110 billion worth of an arms deal with the Saudis. How do you think this is going to be received in the US and perhaps more pertinently in the wider international community?
Well, not very well. I mean, We've seen what the Saudis have done with arms in the last 6 years or so, and I think, you know, to understand why this administration is upping arms sales to the Saudis, we have to go back a little bit. You know, in 2010, 2011, at the start of the Arab Spring, the Saudis were then, contracts were signed for over $65 billion at that time, the largest ever. And then here we are a number of years later, and the numbers are 110, possibly up to $300 billion. And the reason behind this is basically after the failures of the U.S. interventions in Iraq and invasions of Afghanistan, the Americans were no longer willing to sacrifice blood and treasure, and moving forward they were going to use local proxies to fight their wars. And Saudi Arabia is willing and able to rally to fight wars in Syria and in Iraq and in Yemen on behalf of the American administration, but unfortunately to no avail. These are not winnable wars.
Yeah.
And at this point, I think that Trump is looking at them as a cash cow.
Well, yeah, one of those points, Trump says, doesn't he, that he wants to bring peace to the Middle East, but you're going to have his critics saying, well, that's simply just platitudes because you've come to Saudi Arabia right off the bat, you've signed a massive arms deal.
Peace is a relative term. What do the Americans and what does the Trump administration mean by peace, for starters? You know, I think peace means the status quo. Status quo, that means the Americans continue to exercise, excuse me, hegemony over the region, and that's not possible with an empire in decline. So I think right now what we're seeing with the Trump administration, headed by Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, spearheading an effort to create what they're calling the Arab NATO, which is a peace deal struck over the Israel-Palestine conflict, in which the Saudis and the Gulf states and other Sunni states will agree to some kind of a solution there in order to cooperate with Israel to target Iran. So in fact, we're going to see an escalation, not peace.
Yeah, just while we have you, I wanted to get your thoughts on another aspect of the trip. Trump slammed the country's approach to women's rights before this. Do you expect that that topic will surface during the trip? There's another day left in Riyadh.
Yeah, no, I don't, actually. I think this administration has made it clear that human rights is not on the top of their agenda. I'm not sure it actually was before, but in this case, they're overtly claiming that it's not on the top of their agenda, that interests prevail and will continue to prevail during the course of this administration.
Geopolitical analyst Sharmeen Narwani, we appreciate your time and thoughts this hour. Thank you.